All right, now in this video, we're going to implement authentication using Laravel Sanctum. So you're going to need, we're going to set up a Laravel backend that is for adding the routes. You're going to add the routes and then controllers, and then you're going to handle the registration, login, and logout. And of course, by installing Laravel, you need to have what we call the Sanctum. So Sanctum is a Laravel package that helps you to, or that deals with API authentication. For example, you're able to generate a token, and then that token will authenticate you into the app that you have. So for you to have Sanctum, you need to run this command. So composer require Laravel, then here you're going to have slash Sanctum like this. Now you need to have this command running with you. So let's check. Now what you need to know is that whenever you install, for example, if you have Laravel 10 with you, now this should already be with you. That is, this package should already be installed so far. So let's check if it's already there. Now what I'm getting here is that as I look at this application is that this package is already installed, and as you can see here, I'm unable to install it because it's already installed here. You can see here it did not install. It is just saying nothing to modify, or that is nothing to install or update, because with the earlier versions of Laravel 9 and Laravel 10, you can find this. Let's go to composer. So here composer.json, and here you can find the Sanctum, which is already installed here. Now once you get to install Sanctum, if you don't have it, the next item is just to publish the vendor. That is, actually let's just go to that package itself. Alright guys, so now this is the Laravel Sanctum. So as we have run this command, so the other part is just this, to copy this one, and then now we just need to run it here like this. That is to publish the vendor, and you can see they are already published. Now the next part is just to run the that is the migrate command here, just to migrate this. And then yeah, remember we already set up our tables and the database, and it says nothing to migrate because this is already migrated, because as I told you, the Sanctum comes already installed into our application. So since you already have it, and we can also inspect this by going to our table. So let me just open up my database. So the database here is Ecommerce app. That is what we have. Now when I come here, we can see what we have here. We have the personal access tokens, and then we also have other items. So the personal access tokens is whereby it is, now this is what comes with when you migrate this once you install the package and then you migrate this, that is the table that will be created, and within that table you are able now to do whatever you want to do, that is creating tokens, and then the tokens will be stored here, and then they will also have expiry date and so forth. All right, so now so let me just clear this. Now next is now we need to add a Laravel Sanctum as API tokens. Now let's go to the user model. So Control P, then I go to user model here. Now when I go to user model here, I need to add this statement here, use as API tokens. The reason for doing that is that it will enable the model to authenticate requests through the API tokens, and then of course this provides security within our application, because we are using the token-based management authentication of the user, because the user will be logged in, and once the is logged in, there is a token that will be created. So you need to add this in case if you don't have it, and then of course you have to import this because you're using this particular statement here. Now once that is done, we need to go to the course, which is found within the config. So when you come to config here, you can see here we have this cause, that is cross origin resource sharing. Now what does this do? This file is responsible for allowing requests from our front end domain. So in this case here, you just need to, you can see for example the paths. So the path here is just to specify for you the routes that are going to pass that are accessible from our front end domains. That is what we have within the paths. So you need to set that is all the routes that are going to have the slash API. And then within the, for example, the allowed origins here, we are going to specify the resources that we want to allow. For example, in this case, we want to allow a certain URL to be accessible only. So so this one is okay. So the allowed origins here, this is what we're going to do some editing here. So the allowed origins here, I'm going to do this since it has been left like this. So here, what you're going to have is, actually, let me, since you already have our application, so let's just start this PHP artisan serve. Now, once we have that, we can come here and run this 127. Now, this is the local host. Now, this local host, of course, is holding the Laravel application. So what I'll need to do here is just to copy that URL here. And then here, instead of typing it, I'm going to copy and paste it there. Now, you can have this, for example, as a local host, for example. So you can change this to local host, or you can have the 127.0.0. There's no need to have the slash sign. So if I click alt click, of course, I'll be taken to the same local host that we have just opened here, which is our Laravel app. So what we mean there, we just we are allowing we are specifying which origins are allowed to access this resource, and in this case, it is this one here. Now, on the support credentials, we need now to go there. So we need now to go to now this one, we're going to set it to be true, this one here. And the purpose of setting this one to be true is that this means that the browser should include the credentials, for example, cookies, HTTP authentication headers in the request. This is very important because the Sanctum will rely on cookies to authenticate our users, and in this case we need to set it to be true so that we can use it. So all right guys, so this is what, so you just need to have this is already done. Just need to set this one and then the one that is just here. All right, now once that is done, the next part is just to create the auth controller, because here we are dealing now with authentication. So what I'm going to do, let me just open up another instance of this terminal, and what I'm going to do here, I'm going to run this command php artisan make controller, and this controller is going to be auth controller. So we're going to run that command to create that controller there, like that. Now within the auth controller here, we're going to do several things. So let me just locate it. Now the auth controller is the one that is dealing with the login, the logout, and that is basically the authentication for our application. So the first thing here we're going to do here, we're going to start with the registration. So we are going to have a function that is going to handle the registration. So we're going to have a public function like this, and then the public function is going to be register. So you're going to have the register function like this, and then here we're going to pass several things. We're going to pass a request, and then we're going to pass, of course, the request with just the variable here we are just defining. And then within this function register here, we are going to start by validating the incoming request field. So we are going to have requests, which we are going to validate. And then within this validation here, we are going to have the first thing we are going to validate, because this is registration, is going to be the name. And then the name, we're going to set several items. The first one is going to be required. Using the pipe sign there, I'm going to have, so you're going to allow the words to be string, and then you're going to have them to be max of 255 characters. So that is on that part there. Now let me just copy this and paste it here, and then change this to email. So we want to allow the email to going to be a string. In this case, we're also going to have this is going to have, it has to be an email. So you're going to have that like that with the max of 255. And then here we are going to have something else. Here we're going to have the uniqueness of the email is going to be for the users. So we're going to have that like that. So the required, that basically means the email must be a string, a valid email, and should not exceed the 255 characters. And then of course it must be unique within the users table. So you're going to allow that to be that way. Next you're going to have is, let me just copy this again. You're going to have this one is password. Sorry, you're going to have password like that. And then within password is going to be required string. And then here you're going to set it to a min of 6 characters for our password there. Right, so this is going to be a string, and then you're going to allow it to have that characters of 6 minimum. Now, the next part here, now once we have validated our registration details, we are now going to create a variable here, which is going to call the user model. Then it's going to call the create function here with this, so that we can now create the given user. So we are going to have this as at request, and then here we're going to request the name like this. So we requested the name, and then we are going also to have this as email. So you're going to request email like this. So this is going to be email, and then you're going to have password, since these are the details that we want to have. Now password is going to be a bycrypt. So this is going to be a bycrypt, meaning that you're going to allow the person to, that is, we are going to store an hashed password. That's what that means. So this is going to be, so we are going to have the request password like that in that case. So here we are going to have a bycrypt, and to have a Y there, and then and then we request the password. I believe that one is easy to understand. In other words, we are just hashing the password. So that is going to be that way. All right, now once that is done, now we are going to have a return statement here just within this. So in this case, you're going to have return response within our application, and then the response is going to be a JSON response. And then the JSON response, inside it, we're going to have the user like this, and then user, and then you're going to have 201 like this. Now what we are doing here is that we return the user data as a JSON data with a 201, which means created, which is an HTTP status code. So that's what we are doing there. All right, so that is what we have. Now we have, this is user, so unexpected variable name user. So we need to, actually the first thing we need to do here is just to import this model here. So we need to have that model imported, right? And then can save this one so far and see where we are getting the error. Sorry, so this one we don't need to close it. We just need to have it as it is. Need to have it as it is, and then here on the return statement we need to have this one like that, right? So that is what we have, and then lastly is this one here. Actually, this is the one that is closing the main. Okay, now the other part is to handle the login. So we are going to have the function login. So the function login is going to be that way, and then the request here we're going to have is like that. So here we want to allow, once the person is registered now, he can come back and log in again. So here I'm going to copy some things. So let me just copy this one, and then you're going to have that one there. So here I'm going to request only two things, the email and the password. So you're going to request the email, and then the email is going to be string, and then you're going to remove this like that. And then here the password, we're not going to request. So it's going to be required, and then it is just string like that. Now down there, we're going to do something. And this is what you're going to do. So you're going to check if the provided credentials are valid. So I'm going to have an if statement, which is going to check out. It's going to call this out, and then attempt. Now here we're going to have request like this, and then only. So this is going to be email, and then password. Okay, and then here we're going to have this opening statement within the. Now here you're going to, once we're able to check if the provided credentials are valid, we're going to return a statement here. This statement is going to be return response, which is a JSON response. And then inside the JSON response, you are going to return a message like this. So this is going to be, so here we're going to say invalid, is it correct? Invalid login credentials, or we can just put details. Okay, so and then here we're going to have it return as 4.1. Now 4.1 means unauthorized HTTP status code. So if not, return an error. So we are going to return an error to show that the person is trying to authenticate with the wrong details. So that is going to be on that part there. And then now once we are done with that part, the other part is just to, now we are going to check if if the credentials are valid. Then now we are going to get the authenticated user. That is if the person passes this part. So here we are going to be having this as a user. Then here we just request the user. This needs to be an arrow. And then here we have this. So that is if the credentials are valid, we are now getting the authenticated user. And then once we get the authenticated user, we are going now to create a new token. So here you're going to have a token. Then you're going to say that is user create token. And then here inside here we're going to have these two. So you're going to have out token, and then the out token we set it to plain text token. Okay, now that is, so we are just now creating the token in case, that is once the person gets to get signed in this application. However, once that is done, return a response, and this response here is of course a JSON response, and inside we're going to say this. So you're going to say user, that is user, then token, and then token. So that is what we have there. So we call the user to user, and then the token, and then basically that's what we have up to that point there. So here basically what we do, we just validate the person who is logging in. If he's logging in with the wrong details, then we are going to show him this message. And then if the login details are correct, of course, we are going to now forward him to this other part whereby he's going to, that is, he's now going to get authenticated. And then of course we create the token, and then we return a JSON response of, that is with the token that has been created. Now the next part I want us to do is to undo. Now we're in the login. Now we undo the logout. So here I'm going to have another function here. And the function is going to be logout, and then here we're going to have the request with the other requests like that. So here, sorry, this needs to be there. Now here we're going to do this. Now for logging out, we are going now to delete all the tokens for the authenticated user. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to request. So I'm going to have this request. So request user, and then I'm going to have tokens. Then here we're going to have delete. So here we call the delete to delete the tokens that have been generated there. So request user, delete the token, and then we return statement here, which is going to be a response statement, whereby it's a JSON statement. And here we are returning this with a message. So the message, sorry, is going to be this way. So we're just going to tell the person now is logged out, like that. All right, so that is what we have. So we we request for the user token, and then we delete now the token of that particular user there. And that's what we are dealing with on this particular part here. Now, so that is now done. So now let's go to the other part here. The other part is we are now going to set up our routes within our application here. So this is, since this is done, so let's Control P, and then we are going to API routes. Now within the API routes, remember this is the route that we created sometimes back. So what I'm going to do here, we're going now to create the routes. So let's just do this quickly. So the first route here is going to be route. So we're going to have route and then post. And then once we have the post here, we're going to have this. So we have register. So remember, this is now going to the register on our Auth controller. And our Auth controller is where? It is this one here. So this is, so we are setting the first route to this part, this function here, the register. So that's what we are doing. So here we have Auth controller, and then this is, we are setting this to class. So there's something here, this is not a string. And then here we have the register. This register, of course, is the one that now we are calling within the other part of our application. Now for the login, I'm going to copy this, which is going to be the same thing. And here I'm going to, let me take this one. So this one I'm going to change it to login. And we are still referencing the same controller. And then here we are now going to the route login. So the route login is the one that you can see here, this part here. So this is the one that we have, that we are referencing here. All right, so that is it. So next is now the last part is to since now we have implemented this with our Sanctum. So I'm going to have this route, which is going to be this way. So route middleware, and then inside there I'm going to have the Auth, then Sanctum, like this. So you're going to have that Auth Sanctum, and then inside here you have post, and then you have the logout, because now this one is the one that is taking us, actually this is the last one for the logout part of our application. So we have that, and then we have this class here, which is now taking us to the logout. We're going to replace this with the logout, and that's what we have in there. This needs to be 1, because we're starting with the 1 from here. So that needs to be that way. So we are now, what we are doing, we are defining a post route for our user logout using the Laravel Sanctum middleware for authentication, and then the logout is being handled by the logout method within our Auth controller. So that is the whole idea behind this. Now to see everything is working well, now we need to go to, now we can navigate to our Postman so that we can now test these URLs and make sure that they are working. So the first thing we are going to do, because now we have developed this and we want to check the working of it. So we are now going to our Postman. Okay, now since we are in our Postman, and now we just need to get started with this. Now let's so we're going to route, that is API, and then here we're going to access the register like this, and then here we need to make the method to be post. Remember, within our application we add the name, for example. So here we add name like this, then the name of okay, let's just check again. So what we have, what we need to we are requiring here is this name, email, and password. Okay, so let's just have that now. So we are going to have the name, and then the name, for example, it's Brian. And then the email here is going to be brian at gmail.com. And then here we are going to have the password. So the password here is going to be password like that. So those are the three credentials that I want us we explore. Now this headers here, it needs to be this way. So ensure it is X requested with XML, because the data we are receiving here is in form of JSON. So you need to have this one in that way. So the parameters are going to be this one. So let's run, and this application should be running. So we do have it's already running. So you can run this and check. Let me do that run. So okay, so we are getting an error of target class Auth controller does not exist. So we forgot to do something here, and I'm sure some of you might have observed this. So let's go to the API. You can see here we have not imported this class here, which is the Auth controller class. So we need to have it imported like this. So we need to have it imported that way. All right, so now going back again. So let's try to do this request again. So you can see here, once we do the requests, now the person has been registered, which is Brian, the email, and then the ID is 1. 201 means created because it's what we have within our controller here, this one here. Okay, now let's go to, now so since that is now the registration, now let's go to the login. So for us to log in, what we have here is within our function here, we request for email and then the password. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do here, it's just the email and password. So that's what we need. And then here I'm going to change this to, instead of now registering, we're going to have a login like that with email and password with what we add. So the request is still going to be post. That is the request is still post within our route. So you can see once we log in, we can see now we get a token, because remember what we said, we wrote here is that once it's successful, the login details are correct, we are going to be given a token. A token is going to be created on this part, and then we return the response in JSON. Now, what if the login details were incorrect? So now this is what will happen when the login details are incorrect. So in this case, we have email Brian, and then password is this password here. So what happens here is that, for example, here we can have, let's say you come and change the password here to something like, let's say 101, something like that. So it means now you are trying to log in with incorrect credentials. So this message is going to be given here, and remember, this is what we add here. So if you try to attempt with the wrong details, this is going to be shown there. So that is invalid login details. Now the last part is on the login out, because here we also looked at the login out. So if you are trying to log out of this application, we said you request a user token, and then we delete it, and then we return a response, a JSON message showing you that you logged out. So how do you go about it? So the way you go about it is that we are going to come back here. Let's get, okay, so these are the correct login details. Remember, these login details are the ones which are also within the database here. So when I browse here, remember on the users table, we have in Brian with the ID of 2, and then the email, and then the password. Remember, we hashed the password when we were writing our application on this part here, when we said at user create within our model, this one here, and then we hash the password like this. So we have something like this. Okay, now so that is what we have. So I want us now we log out we log out the person who is logged in from this application. So how do we go about it? So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to copy this token. So I've generated a couple of tokens. So here I'm going to copy this token here. Now within the authorization here, we have what we call bearer and then token here. So here, let me copy this one and let's have it there. Remember, on our front end, this is still the same thing we are going to use. Okay, so that is what we have. So with that copied out, so what I'm going to do here within the logout, this is the kind of code that we wrote here. So we have this, and then we have logout, and then let's go to the API. So within the API, we also have this like this. So that is the request we are going to send. So here, change this one here to logout. So what are we logging out here in this application? So we are logging out the email, and then we are logging out the password, because those are the two things that the person is logged in with. And in this case, you still need to have the same, which is post, that is which is post, the request, and then the logout, and then we send this this request. Let's see if it's going to work. Right, so we get the message of logged out, which of course is what we have within our controller here. Alright guys, so in the next video, we shall now start with the Vue.js, whereby we are now going to integrate whatever we have done on our backend to our front end. Let me see you in the next video.